Hello everyone, and welcome to a new edition of our NGI Talks. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Marta Albujar, and I'm a marketing lead for the NGI initiative. And I will be the one today moderating, or at least introducing the talk with our NGI ambassador, Manuela Bagliattini, about the impacts of artificial intelligence on society. Let's wait a little bit more to let everyone in. Let's wait a couple of minutes to let everyone being able to join. And we will start presenting Manuela in a couple of minutes. Okay, I think we can start now. I see people still joining us, but maybe we can start introducing our presenter, and yeah, while people is joining us. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. As you probably know, the next generation internet aims to turn the internet into an internet of humans. And in this sense, we may agree that the use of personal data, transparency, and digital ethics are key issues that we have to address when we are pushing toward that change. For a safe and for a trustworthy digital environment or environments. And that is why we have invited today a well-known expert in the field, Manuela Battaglini. Welcome, Manuela. She's going to go a little bit more in depth into the challenges that artificial intelligence is putting us ahead these days, especially in terms of governance in the cyberspace. Well, before leaving the floor to Manuela, I brought a few quick notes on her background and her expertise. Manuela is a lawyer. She's a researcher and a consultant working on digital ethics, especially focused on data ethics, ethics in algorithm, and ethics in practice. She is also the CEO of Transparent Internet, where they are helping organizations that want to make an ethical impact on society, and they do it through an ethical use of the personal data. She has advised several organizations from many sectors, like private banking, retail, public administration, and European project, among others. She was also leading the Ethical Considerations Working Group as a part of the group of experts advising the Spanish government to define the so-called National Charter of Digital Rights. She has also led and taken part into the writing of several articles on digital ethics, and actually she has just published an article in the Nature news
magazine.
the Nature magazine. Sorry, I was thinking about the newspaper. And yeah, I'm gonna leave the link over here. It is about the pilot of the Spanish tracing app for COVID-19, and yeah, and she is also a proud NGI ambassador. She has joined us as an NGI ambassador for 1 year so far, and she's helping us promoting this European initiative of the next generation internet. So yeah, after this quick introduction, I will give the floor to Manuela, and I will ask you all, if you have any questions, just drop it on the question section, and then in the end we will go through them. So Manuela, thank you again, and welcome again to the NGI Talks, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and hello everyone. So I'm going to share my screen, okay, in order to start the presentation. So you can see all my screen?
Yes.
I assume you can, no? Okay, so let's start. So what I wanted to talk about is about mainly the, let's see. Okay, the big picture about the social impact of artificial intelligence in our society. And starting this conversation, I think that one of the most important things that we have to talk about is the main problems that they're derived from the lack of digital ethics in our society. But I would like to talk about not from a perspective about data collection, I mean, lack of digital ethics in data collection and or the ethics of the algorithms, or how, in practice. I would like to talk today about the different aspects of the lack of digital ethics that, in my opinion, they are very interesting because they are much more talking about the problems that they are in society. That I think this is something very important to talk about and start thinking about it. So the first problem that I would like to talk, or the three problems, as you can see in the presentation, our cyberspace divides people by profiles, and I'm going to talk about more about this in a few minutes. A lack of democratic governance of cyberspace, and I want to clarify that I'm not talking only about regulation. I'm talking about something else, and of course, automated decision making and personal profiling. So we know that cyberspace, what it does is that divides people in profiles, in a sense that our world and the way that we see the world in the big platforms, it is divided in echo chambers. Echo chambers where everybody is profiling, in a sense that depending on the things that we post on the internet, depending on the things that we like, we support, and every movement, every track, or all the track that these tech giants make of our movements, tell them which are our political ideas or ideas about our society and of ourselves, of course. And this makes all of this information that at the end of the day, what they do is that they profile us in different echo chambers. What does this in the result makes? That we see the world and our premises. It means that at the end of the day, this causes a polarization where we are just fighting for our ideas. It provokes confrontation. So one solution that we have, or I mean the solution that we have to find here, how to make it, is to break these echo chambers, in a sense that these ideas and thoughts can be discussed and challenged and not provoke confrontation. This is the picture that I have here in my slide, is how the world is divided depending on the political aspects that you think. So there is a few people in the middle and the rest of the people is totally in the extreme. So this is something that we have to break in order that everybody is like in the middle. So we can exchange our ideas, discuss our ideas, and talk about different topics without not any problem, but I mean not in an extreme and polarized way as it is right now. The second issue that I want to talk about is the democratic governance of our cyberspace. So what is going on here? What's going on here is that the cyberspace and the internet is a critical infrastructure, okay? And it's a critical infrastructure that is coordinating the rest of our critical infrastructure. The 98% at least, and being conservative, of our life is coordinated in cyberspace. And that's the reason why we need this democratic governance of the cyberspace and the internet. I'm talking about that in the cyberspace, as an example, we have data storage, water consumption is coordinated through the internet. The coordination of transportation, both private and public transportation. All the tech giants, obviously, they are in the internet. The entertainment, the media, the economic transactions that we do. How to move from point A to point B when you use our GPS, e-commerce, when we want to contract any services, energy, switch, everything that happening until now, it is coordinated through the cyberspace. So that's the reason why we need this democratic governance of the cyberspace. Not only regulation, that of course we need it, but I'm going to explain afterwards what I mean saying this democratic the governance of the cyberspace. And the third one is automated decision-making and personal profiling. So this is a diagram that we wrote in our first paper. It was research about transparency in automated decision-making and personal profiling, where we divided the process in 6 stages, since the data are collected from an individual or group of individuals. But to be honest, the first stage where it is written individuals' interests and needs, what we did is to add a new stage, because almost all papers and documents that they are talking about, which are the ethical principles, they start by data collection. And as I have a background in marketing and online marketing, I said, well, what I think they start here, there is a lack of one very important stage. It is the needs of individuals, of people. So depending on the interests and needs of the people, one data will be collected and no others, and vice versa. So, and of course, we have to defend and to know which are the interests of the people. Otherwise, we don't know why we are collecting this information. Second stage is data collection. Third is data security and all the protocols about anonymization, pseudonymization, data encryption. Then the automated decision-making processes and the training set, the personal profiling, and the impact of this automated decision-making and the profiling in individuals' lives. So just as a comment, as it is divided in 6 stages, it's very easy to explain that we have a very important rights that they are declared in GDPR. The right to be notified and the right to access, they are the Carta Magna of Transparency in GDPR. And the great question is, our right to access and our right to be notified, until which stage of this diagram does it arrive? So does it arrive until the 6th stage, in the sense that we have the right to know until, which is the impact in our lives of this automated decision-making and personal profiling? Do we have the right to be notified, or to access, excuse me, to all the information that is, all the data that these companies, organizations are using in order to make this automated decision-making, this profile, which is going to be our impact, and if they are or not selling or sharing the information with third parties? Well, bad news. When we arrive to the 3rd stage, we cannot go to the 4th stage, because laws like intellectual property rights and trade secret directive, that they are not the laws, what they do is that allows companies to be opaque. So GDPR does arrive in that sense until stage number 3. I will talk about this later. So talking about the first problem that I said about polarization and echo chambers, which is the problem that is underneath? There is a big problem of inequality, and this problem of inequality did already exist before the big platforms exist. What they did is to amplify exponentially this problem, but they didn't create this problem. And what happened at the Capitol riots in Washington, 6th January, what they did was a consequence of this, one of the consequences of this. And we can say that we suffered a damage of democracy from its foundations. That was the consequence. So it is not because Trump existed, or it was at the government. It is not, or it was because social networks have not legal boundaries, because these are symptoms. It is because there was another problem in society. We know that US has not a way of protecting their citizens as we have in Europe. We are much more protective, but what we have to, what US is saying to Europe is copy this, in a sense that inequality in our continent is growing. So it can happen very serious consequences in our society, and it can be augmented exponentially via these big platforms. So I'm going to explain some of these examples of inequality that provoked many of this, or they are provoking that these echo chambers are extremely polarizing extremely the population. In the state of California, for example, with vast amounts of wealth, more than 150,000 people of its residents sleep in shelters, cars, or on the street, just in California. Or Americans dying because they can afford medical care. So 25% of Americans have delayed medical treatment for a serious illness because of the cost of care. 45,000 Americans die every year as a direct result of having no health insurance coverage. Another example, most Americans are experiencing slow income growth because most of the overall income growth is going to the upper class households. So the next data is very it's very extreme, and it can describe how society, the inequality in society, that between 1978 and 2018, CEO salaries increased by more than 900%, while worker salaries increased just 11.9%. And these last two examples, it is that in 2019, Americans collectively owe more than 1.6 billion in student debt. The result is that the racial wealth gap, high levels of student debt, and unequal access to and outcomes of higher education for Black students, and particularly Black women. So it's extremely biased and discriminating. And the last example is that during the pandemic, the world's 1,000 richest people have already recovered, while it will take a decade for the poorest people to do so. So we can see that we have a real problem of inequality in our society that is really increased by these big tech giants. And the problem in our democracy is, as I said, the inequality, and as I said, tech giants have increased it exponentially, as at the end of the day, technology is politics. And we can see these kind of situations where Mark Zuckerberg goes to visit Trump without any shame, we could say, in a sense that he exposes publicly. And of course, this is one of the situations that we can see clearly that technology is politics. Well, talking about this democratic governance of the cyberspace, what does it mean? I would like to explain it, putting the example of roads. So roads as an example. So roads have to be maintained, and this is decided as the design, as the construction, as the maintenance. This is hanging from the corresponding ministry. We need a ministry or department that of critical infrastructure, because cyberspace is a critical infrastructure that goes across all the ministries in governments. Why? Well, because cyberspace, as I said before, is a critical infrastructure. And cyberspace, for example, from the physical point of view, has all these cables that have to be maintained too, okay, as the roads. So if almost all critical infrastructures are controlled by the internet, we cannot have a road department or education department or a health department or a finance department or ministry or switch department that is not coordinated or is not intimately coordinated with the internet department. Why? Well, because, for example, in the road example, public transportation and the private transportation is coordinated via the internet, and how people are using the roads but the internet to go from point A to point B. So the conclusion is there has to be a change in our institutions, a physical change, where we have to create an internet or cyberspace department or ministry that is intimately related with every ministry in the government. As I said before, finance, health, education, defense, sewage, water, because, as I said before, these critical infrastructures are all coordinated by the cyberspace that itself is a critical infrastructure. And then talking about and assessing the third problem, we need digital ethics, and this is something that it's very clear. So if we have to describe what is ethics by design and by default, we can answer this question, we can answer this question with this sentence. If a problem can be solved anonymously, don't collect data. The example is the DP3T protocol, that it was a protocol that it was used in order to develop these contact tracing applications in the pandemic. So many countries developed under this protocol. They didn't collect any data because this problem it could be solved anonymously. If you have to collect data, then in the design and development stage, we have to make this ethics or ethical data protection and privacy, fundamental rights, security, and social impact assessment with other actors that have to be involved in the conversation. And I will talk later about this, or I will mention it later. And the development stage, the same, but once this technology is implemented and once this technology is already used by people, then, as I say here, in the event an ethics by design and by default were not applied, the chances of avoiding harm and fixing ethical and privacy issues are greatly reduced. So if you have to collect data, so the first thing is that just collect the necessary data in order to fulfill your purpose. You have to notify in a very clear way and transparent and a very easy way to your users, clients, or people that are using your technological product. Don't sell or share this information with third parties. To notify which information are you collecting from citizens or from people, from users, which decisions are you going to take based on this information, and use this method of the 6 stages as it is in the corner up on the right side. That is one, as I said before, it's a diagram that we designed for our first research in transparency and automated decision making and personal profile, and it's very easy to use it for companies because it goes step by step. So, and if you have to contract to hire technological suppliers, hire those technological suppliers that they are ethical and they are preserving people's privacy. And as I said before, the social impact of technology is the discrimination and the bias is not only the statistical and mathematical bias. This is one part. It's not only code and data. There is more than this. There is a social dimension of technology. And there are new models of governance that I said before, but not only from a country perspective or government perspective, but from companies' perspective too. And there are different actors that they are in the conversation, this equation. It's not only the developers, the data scientists, the engineers, and the managers or CEOs of the companies, but there are sociologists, social scientists, anthropologists, philosophers, psychologists that they are working or they have to work with these managers, developers, data scientists too, in order to understand how the customer is interacting with technology, all the benefits and the usage, and of course a constant change of behavior in society with a new course, but mainly in the new conflicts and new biases and the new discrimination in order to try to fix them and avoid them, of course. So this is my presentation that I arrived until here. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Manuela, for this inspiring presentation.
Thank you.
Challenges in our plates, and especially as you were telling me before regarding the democratic governance of the cyberspace, we have much to do here. So that's why your inputs today on this topic are extremely valuable, especially if we are aiming for a new type of internet centered on humans. Let's check if someone is posting any. I see a question here. Who should be responsible for establishing democratic governance of cyberspace at the European level? The European Commission, national governments, corporations, everyone?
Well, if it is in the European level, European Commission, but what I think is that it's true that this idea has to come from the European Commission, or at least from the European perspective. This, what it does is an effect of the rest of the countries in order to implement this democratic governance. But I think that it would be a really good, or it would have a really good impact, a big impact, if it starts from the European perspective. And this has to be accompanied with some education, we would say, because these are concepts that they are kind of not abstract, because I think that they are concrete. We need this, but on the other hand, but we have to try to educate our population in order to they have to understand that all our movements and our life in a 98% being conservative, as I said in the presentation, is coordinated by the cyberspace that itself is a critical infrastructure. So this is something very important in order to let the population to understand why we need this changing our institutions.
Okay, anyone else has any question? I have one. Well, I was impressed by the first concept of the echo chambers. I think it's really interesting how public opinion is now shaped in a different way that it was before, because some years ago I was thinking about that. Like some years ago we were complaining about media empires and oligopolic structure for like the information providers were forming oligopolies, and that's why I thought that the internet in that moment seemed like a silver lining against this. Now, so my question was, who is to blame of this polarization, and how should we tackle this toward let's say a less extreme public opinion, at least online?
Who is making this polarization? Who's responsible?
Who is responsible for this?
Well, this is an algorithm problem mainly. Yeah. So this is a technical problem in the sense that echo chambers, they exist because algorithmically we are profiled in a sense that you belong to this extreme and you belong to the other extreme, depending on all the information and that you are living every day, day by day, in your movements on the internet. So how it works? Well, depending on the echo chamber that you belong to, and that is decided by an algorithm, the timeline in social networks or in these big platforms, what they do is that they put some information in your timeline in order that you react immediately, or you do agree, in a sense that you start to sharing because you really do agree with that information, or you don't agree, and then there's kind of a moral outrage that you react with anger, and you react saying this is not possible, let's fight against this, and then you share the same, and many people share, and then all this mechanism is activated in the sense that they know what you like and what you hate, and then they play with this. That's the reason why these echo chambers work. And of course, here the media has a very important role, because they know this, and then they are using these algorithms in order to make these fake news, and in order to clickbaiting, in the sense that they put in the title of the news some sentences or some titles that they are not descriptive of the whole news, but what it makes is that you don't want to read the rest of the news, but you just reading the title, then you react immediately. And then this is what this, unfortunately, these echo chambers are provoking. So first of all, how can we battle against the situation? I think that it has to be a moral conduct online for media. So there are some media, some newspapers, the big information groups in Spain, I know this for sure, that they are starting to measure their success on the online, so the metrics, stop using some metrics like the number of clicks in our platforms, and they are starting to use other metrics that they really want to start to make more content of quality and not provoking a reaction from people without reading the news. So they want to let people know what's going on through an educated content. On the other side, from an algorithm point of view, the regulation is so important here. So it's not only the democratic governance, it's the regulation too. So the regulation is critical here, because we have to start demanding, but very severe way, to the tech giants or concretely to the social networks, stop or accessing to their sorry, accessing to the algorithm that is going to be impossible, because they are black box, or they are these laws that I mentioned before, they allow them to be opaque, that to dissolve these echo chambers, or we have to be much more severe from the European perspective with the social network, with these big platforms. And why? Well, for many reasons. First of all, because they are damaging our democracy, and from a European level, and in general, and more concretely from every European country, we have to realize that our Pacific coexistence is in danger too. So because of these echo chambers and all these people and this confrontation online that is happening offline too. And on the other hand, I think that the legislation or regulation for media, from a moral perspective and ethical perspective, had to start to change too. So they have to assume some responsibility in order to some responsibilities, because they are responsible, depending on the content that they are posting on the social networks, or this polarization and these echo chambers work as they work too.
Okay, thanks. We have also some questions here. You spoke of bias not being only algorithmic and data, but also social. Can you elaborate more about that?
No. When I said, or I think that I said, sorry if I didn't explain myself correctly, what I said was that mainly that there is another, or we have to, the bias is not, it is about the statistical and mathematical and code and data, but what I'm talking about is that there is a social dimension too, in a sense that we not only have to take a look only to the technical perspective, as I've been talking until now. We have to check algorithms, we have to dissolve echo chambers, etc. There's a social dimension, and this technical perspective, it is developed by the technical people. I mean, from developers, data scientists, and engineers. Now, there is a social aspect of technology that, in order to avoid this discrimination and biases, has to be applied to, and all these different actors have to develop the products in technology, have to design together this technology. And I'm talking about the sociologists, social scientists, psychologists, anthropologists, philosophers, that they have to work with the developers, data scientists and engineers, lawyers too, ethicists. They have to work together in order to avoid these biases and this discrimination. Doing this, what I said before, what I named before, contemplating this the ethical part of the technology, if they are respecting the fundamental rights, if they respect data protection and privacy, if they respect security, but of course this is from a technical perspective, and the social impact. And of course, this is from this humanistic and philosophers part of this conversation, because of course, every time that a new technology is developed and is out there implemented and being used by people, a new course can happen, in the sense that we can use technology for all the reasons that it was designed, but on the other hand, can be other conflicts and dangers for human beings. So that's the reason why these new actors have to be involved in this conversation, in this design of the technology. They have to talk about the moral dilemmas and the ethical dilemmas while this new technology or this new product is developed.
And I think we have like the second part of this previous question. What are your views on the use of affective technologies and empathic AI?
Affective technology and empathic AI. I don't know if a technology can be empathical, to be honest. I don't think so, because technology and artificial intelligence is not that intelligent. So in a sense that technology, what it does is what human wants to do it. And if you are a developer and you are making code, you have to tell exactly to the in your source code exactly what the outcome has to be. And I think that from this point of view, this is a personal idea, a personal opinion, and I think that it is near to reality, that who is empathetical here is human beings, not machines.
And I'm gonna drop the last one because we're running a little bit out of time. When centralized algorithm ban all conspiracies, they will storm open protocol and harass people in the centralized network of the Fediverse. What can we do?
I didn't understand the question, sorry.
Yeah. When centralized algorithms ban all conspiracies, they will storm open protocol.
When the centralized algorithms, what?
When centralized algorithms ban all conspiracies, they will storm.
Centralized algorithm, it means that is the whole information in the same database, in a centralized database?
I don't really know. I will just copy the question and put it into the chat so you can see it. Just going to copy paste it. I don't know, Manuela, if you can get into the question sections.
Questions.
Because I cannot copy it. Yeah.
But
I was trying to copy it on the chat. So the question is, when centralized algorithms ban all conspiracies, they will storm open protocols and harass people in the centralized networks or the Fediverse. What can we do?
Well, I still don't understand very well, but it says kind of that algorithms start to harass people in a centralized, so a centralized algorithms start to harass people, and what can we do, more or less?
Yeah, something like this.
Well, I think that
I don't understand the question either. I don't know if the person that
the question is something like
can...
that. If the question is something like that, I think that the answer is what I said before, that what we can do, first of all, the part of the democratic governance of the cyberspace is very important in this case. The regulation, more severe regulation is very important here. And of course, one of the most important things is that it has to be ethical by design and by default. So once it is implemented and the harm is already done, it's very difficult to change the machine, let's say, is very difficult, or it has to be removed, or it's going to be very difficult to change the negative perspective or the negative aspects of these algorithms. But of course, one is out, it has to be regulated in order to stop, if that is the question. Sorry if I didn't understand it very well.
Okay, so I think it's time for us to finish the talk. Thank you again, Manuela. Thank you to all the attendees. Yeah. I would like to remind you that the recording of the webinar will be posted in the community. I will leave the link here in the chat, if it will let me do it. Okay. And just as a quick final remark, just let you know that the Next Generation Internet Talk is taking place next week. It's going to be on the 3rd of February, and it's going to be a panel about cybersecurity brought by the NGI ambassador Aljaz Pasik, and having Dick Jumpers from Eurit and Christian Herselman from Sidon Labs. And I will also drop the link here in the chat, so if you want, you can of course join it, and you are all welcome to. So yeah, let's wrap up. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you in our next NGI Talk. Bye.
Bye-bye.